Hello and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Heather and I'm joined from Denver, Colorado by my co-host and sister Jenny. Say hello, dude.
Hello.
Today we are discussing part 1 of the 1986 Christmas special, A Royal Flush. So grab a Benedictine and lemonade and let's get started.
So here we are, Christmas 1986, Heather's first Christmas. As is now tradition, Only Fools and Horses would air on Christmas Day itself. A Royal Flush aired on the BBC at 7:05 p.m. on Thursday, December 25th, 1986. Viewing figures hit 18.8 million, which is tied with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire now for the top spot. And it actually aired around 3 months after Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Christmas number 1 for 1986 was Jackie Wilson's Reet Petite, and top of the UK box office was Labyrinth.
Oh,
yeah,
I love Labyrinth.
The highest grossing movie of 1986 was Back to the Future. So
That makes sense.
we're now in like territory of movies that we knew and loved growing up.
Yeah.
So Christmas Day on BBC One this year featured Christmas Morning with Noel. That would be Noel Edmonds broadcasting live from the top of the British Telecom Tower. The usual Top of the Pops Christmas party and the Queen's speech. Also the Russ Abbott Christmas show, John Sullivan's other show, Just Good Friends, and a Christmas Day episode of EastEnders, which, by the way, broke records drawing 30 million viewers, making it the most watched programme of the year for 1986. Following A Royal Flush, the movie Miss Marple, The Murder at the Vicarage, was broadcast. And over on ITV, they showed the Cinderella pantomime and James Bond Never Say Never Again. During the filming of A Royal Flush, the 3 main cast members were invited to perform for the 1986 Royal Variety Show. They would be performing a short sketch written by John Sullivan, and this was recorded live during the live performance on November 24th and was aired on the BBC on November 29th. The sketch is approximately 5 minutes long, and the premise is that the Trotters arrive at the Royal Theatre, Drury Lane, but they think they are at Chunky Lewis's nightclub, Delaney's, in the West End. They come out on the stage and they perform the sketch until they realise the Queen is in the audience. They make a swift exit, but even at the end, Del still thinks they're in Delaney's club. The cast were basically torn away from filming in Salisbury and went to London and back in one day to perform live on stage under very stressful conditions. They had all been rehearsing solid every night after filming and rehearsed all the way there and back as well in the taxi, I guess, that they were in. But the performance went very well, and afterwards they were presented to the Queen Mother, who apparently paid the most attention to Buster Merryfield. She wanted to touch his beard and see if it was real. So, dude, did you watch the Royal Variety performance?
No.
You should watch it at some point. It's interesting to watch. I'd never seen it before, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't know what any of the fans think of it. It's a live stage performance, so it's pretty different to the episodes and stuff. But
I actually had never even heard of this one. I've heard of some of the other little ones that they did, but this one I had no idea about. So
we'll get a little bit more into why this stressful situation of them being pulled away from filming and doing all of this actually really affected the whole shoot of A Royal Flush as we get more into the episode.
So, dude, do you have any episode facts for us?
Yes, I do. Doing another feature-length Christmas special this year was a no-brainer for the BBC, following the success of To Hull and Back in 1985. John Sullivan, however, did want this one to be very different, and he got his wish.
Nailed that.
So the idea of this episode was inspired by 2 things. Firstly, John Sullivan had noticed that the nobility was becoming closer to the working class. An example of this was Prince Margaret's son setting himself up as a carpenter. Sullivan had also read news that Special Branch was being employed to protect the younger members of the royal family. So Sarah Duncan played Vicky. She only has 4 credits to her name on IMDb, all of them between 1986 and 1989. She does have some very fond memories of the whole experience though, and I will add more of that into the episode breakdown. Filming took place over 6 weeks between November 1st and December 13th, 1986. It was a big job for Tony Dow and Olivia Basilgate to find all the locations. We will mention each location as we get to it in the episode, but overall it's important to note that the whole production took place in Salisbury due to the location chosen for the Duke's house, which is about 2 hours away from London. It's no secret that this episode had a troubled production. David Jason lost his voice for 3 whole days, followed by Nick Lyndhurst getting the flu. These delays are the reason that the tape was not run for a studio audience and that no laugh track was recorded. They were so close to missing the broadcast deadline that they actually considered filming and airing the final scenes live on Christmas Day. Ray Butt and Tony Dow, who would go on to start directing Only Fools and Horses after Ray Butt stepped down, he got his first experience of spending Christmas Eve in the editing room. But not his last experience. Ray Butt remembers that they actually fell asleep on the editing room floor that night. So it's no secret, and we won't skirt around this issue any longer. This episode is often fans' most disliked, for various reasons, but mostly due to Del's drunken behaviour towards the end of the episode. It seems this is often blamed on David Jason's performance due to him not having a live audience to read from. Sometimes it's blamed on John Sullivan for not being on the set to guide him. Either way, we're going to address this in as much depth as we can. And here, it is very important to stress that we are reviewing the uncut 75-minute long version of this episode. In 2004, a new, much shorter cut of this episode was released, reducing the runtime down to a small 58 minutes, and adding a laugh track taken from a live screening at an Only Fools and Horses convention. And as usual, I'll have more and a lot more trivia to scatter throughout the episode. Shall we move on to our episode rankings, dude?
Yes, let's do it. So our regular listeners will know by now that each week we reveal and compare our rankings for the episode, and prior to the recording of the entire podcast, we independently ranked all 64 episodes. If you didn't know that already, then you're not yet one of our regular punters, so we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast. We release a new episode every Saturday. Okay, rankings for this one.
I'm going to guess...
Okay, I'm going to go with in the 50s for both of us.
I was going to guess it's in your... You're going to guess your own?
Yeah, I'll guess my own.
Is it in your bottom 5?
Yes. So I was just remembering 64.
Yeah. Mine's not actually in my bottom 5. It's one above. Mine is 59.
So is mine.
It is?
Oh, we got a match.
So we did get a match. Okay. Well,
yes.
We'll talk about it a lot, I'm sure, but do you want to guess what the IMDb ranking is?
Oh, God, low. I reckon for this one, I'm going to go with 60.
Nope. You can't.
Oh, higher.
It's 64. It's the lowest.
Oh, it's lowest.
Yeah.
Lower than the 2000s ones.
Yep.
Oh.
It's low. It's 64. Yeah, it's the worst ranked on IMDb.
Wow.
I mean,
that actually surprises me a little bit.
I wasn't surprised.
I think the 2000s episodes were, well, we'll talk about those later.
The 2000s episodes are controversial for sure, but are they as infamously hated as this episode across the board? I don't think so. Fans, like all the fans, seem to mostly. I mean, I guess I have heard some people say they like it. I don't hate it the way that a lot of people do. I do not hate this episode
because we watched it when we were kids and we liked it from a kid's perspective.
There are still parts of. And honestly, I think as a kid I liked it until I was told by Dad that everyone hates it. And then I was like, oh, everyone hates it. John Sullivan hates it. Okay, fine. But I didn't hate it until everyone told me that. So I guess that means there's nothing really that wrong with it. I can see all the criticisms. I see them. I don't hate any episode, to be honest. I just if I don't find an episode enjoyable, I won't put it on. And I have put this one on a lot more than some of the ones that are lower than it on my ranking. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think there's an element, of course, when something is so universally panned, that actual rewatchability tends to increase because people want to watch it so they can figure out all the reasons they hate it.
Why does everyone hate this? Let's watch it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I actually, in preparation for writing the breakdown, I sort of watched the DVD version alongside the uncut version. And it really has a very different feel because of the laugh track.
Yes.
It's interesting you just mentioned about the laugh track and the reason that it wasn't included in the end, because I think the laugh track would have made a huge difference.
Yes.
It's like we said with To Hull and Back, which was the only other episode that doesn't have a laugh track so far. I think
Miami
Twice is the only other one, right?
But that's not so far.
Miami Twice is the last one that doesn't have a laugh track in the original broadcast.
Right.
But for To Hull and Back, it made it feel more serious. Like we already spoke about this, more like a movie, you know, and it had kind of it wasn't what's the word? It didn't feel like a comedy show because it didn't have that laugh track attached to it. And that was, I think, one of the issues with this, because this episode is already darker. by the way that it's portrayed, and some of the things that Del does in this episode are awful. But imagine that, and then take the laugh track off as well. It just makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at the DVD version, that was the most noticeable thing to me, even with the huge cuts that they did make in the DVD version, which are hack jobs. I'll talk about that later. But it did make the tone so much lighter just to have that bit of laughter throughout the whole thing. It's amazing the difference it made.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah, so I mean, John Sullivan's main reason for doing the edit is because apparently, he hated the original. Like, he wasn't happy with the way it came out, and he thinks that the new version was the better version, and he didn't want the other one shown anymore, right? Even though it has been since released on the Blu-ray that came out. But to be honest, like, when I still remember this really vividly, when we got the video, like the actual officially released VHS, and it wasn't the one we had off TV, and we were like, what happened to all the opera stuff? Like, where's all the like scenes? We were really disappointed, and we said we'll never watch this version again because we didn't like it. And I think I've heard a lot of other people say, even though overall they don't like a royal flush, they especially don't like the edited one. But then there are a whole load of fans that have never seen anything but the edited one.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, again, for me, I will always prefer things in their original format. It goes for everything, movies, whatever, because I don't agree with sort of cutting things up. I like to see things in their original formats. I think that's how they were intended, even though John Sullivan didn't like it afterwards. It was intended to be released as it was in 1986. So I like to watch that version. And there are some great things that were cut, which we'll talk about in the episode breakdown.
You mean there were some good choices with what was cut? Oh, no, you mean there were some good moments.
There were some good choices for things that were cut, and there were some good moments that were cut as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's very difficult to assess things sort of 20 odd years later and look at them in a different way, because I feel like a lot of people would hack things to bits now, and they do regularly from the past, because they are received differently now. And I think that's kind of what I feel with the Royal Flush. I think we should just appreciate the original medium. We can talk about it, we can criticize it, but leave it alone in its original format, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I understand why he did it in a lot of ways, because of the amount of criticism that he got. But at the same time, leave it as it is, because all these years later, people would probably appreciate being able to see that one more often, because the new one just, it's no better. Yeah. If anything, just put a laugh track on the 75-minute one.
Agreed. That is what I would have done. If I was John Sullivan, I would have looked at it and gone, I'm not going to hack this. I'm just going to put a laugh track on, because, as I said, in my opinion, that made a massive difference to the tone overall already.
And what's really interesting in this case, as we go through the episode breakdown, because Heather's going to do the episode breakdown today, she's watched both. I only watched the uncut, because that's all I had here to watch, and my DVD player's still not hooked up. But I do have the DVD, because I pulled it out to take a look at the runtime, and I was like, oh, maybe I have the uncut one. But I'm like, no, I didn't, because I bought it in the 2000s. So
yeah, mine's the ultimate collection of all of them in that big giant DVD case with like the leopard print.
Right,
design.
So I believe that now the new DVD, new Blu-ray one that came out with what is supposedly remastered versions of a lot of the specials, including To Hell and Back Remastered, has the uncut Royal Flush in it. So it's quite easy for fans to watch either now, but I do remember reading that many people had not seen one or the other. Like, there aren't that many people that are like, oh yeah, I've seen both, and are able to rip it apart. So it's quite interesting. Yeah, and we're going to, hopefully we get tons of comments on this video, and we love reading your comments, because we really want to hear your personal memories. Did you watch it on TV in 1986? Because a lot of people did. It had huge viewing figures. Were you disappointed off the back of To Hell and Back? What did you think of it before you found out everyone else hated it? And what do you think of the the cut version? And do you think John Sullivan should have hacked it to pieces? It's his vision, and it's his show. He can do whatever he likes.
Yeah.
But I think we all just appreciate the rawness of the original. I don't know.
I do, yeah.
But yeah, okay. Well, if there's nothing else, should we go ahead and launch ourselves into the episode breakdown, dude?
Ooh, here we go. Okay, so we begin the episode at the market. And we see Del is selling to a large group of people again. He is selling a cutlery set that doesn't look too bad to me, actually.
No.
And we can see Rodney in the background looking uninterested in being a lookout. So we're harking back to the old days of Rodney being a lookout again.
He's a bad lookout.
I love how Del describes the case for the cutlery.
A genuine synthetic leather look-alike case.
Like, how many ways can you say fake in one sentence?
Yeah, right.
He mentions that you can get them in Patel's Multimart, which was first mentioned in which episode, dude?
The Longest Night?
Very good. Yes, it is. That's where he says they'll go and shop from now on in The Longest Night.
Yeah.
Rodney notices an attractive woman sitting at a stall opposite that is selling paintings. He smiles at her and she smiles back. We go back to Del and he is arguing with one of the potential customers about how genuine his product is. And even in this exchange, I don't know if I'm tainted because I know what people think about the episode, but I feel like we can see Del as a little bit more hostile than usual, even in this exchange.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's always kind of arguing with the punters, isn't he? You think he's more aggressive towards this punter?
That is because they're printed in Indonesia, aren't they? That's the Indonesian spelling. I can't spell out there, can I, you plonker?
It might be the lack of the laugh track that also emphasises this. This is the thing. I'm trying to sort of step back and not be influenced by what I know people think about this episode, but I just think that's maybe the case. Well, that he is slightly more aggressive, or because they give him an argument at the beginning.
I was going to say, maybe compare it to the market selling scene into Hullenbach that also does not have a laugh track. People are critical of that, but that's mostly because of what they perceive to be the racist joke. But do you think that it's similar? Because I feel like, perhaps he's a little bit more lighthearted into Hullenbach, but it's, you know what it is without the laugh track? It's the ever so slightly elongated silences after a gag, right? That are not filled by the audience cracking up, and they're just there. They just sit for a second too long.
I agree. Yeah. It changes the tone of everything. It really does.
Yeah.
But again, into Hullenbach, it worked. In this episode, not as much.
Yeah.
So the lady at the stall smiles at Rodney again. And this time, Rodney pulls quite a creepy face and smiles back at her. If I were her, I would have run a mile at this point. That's what I said.
Well, that face is to acknowledge, hey, she's actually initiating it.
I know, but it's so creepy, like the way Rodney does that.
I feel like it's more of a sort of, like, wow, she's interested in me smile.
I'm sure that's what it was meant to be, but it didn't come across like that. He looks very creepy with the way he smiles.
That would have got a laugh from the audience had there been one.
Yes. Well, in the DVD version. So Del continues to sell the cutlery and he gets into another heated exchange with that same customer, where he is again a little bit hostile.
They can't be top quality, they're too cheap.
What? How can they be too cheap, you plonker?
Here, listen, I'm not a plonker.
No, what are you doing then? An impression?
That customer must be very annoying, though. I think I'd get annoyed with him as well. He's just standing there and he's not buying anything. He just seems to want to wind Del up, which he's succeeding at. So we can hear the arguing continue in the background as Rodney goes over to talk to the lady at the stall. And we find out that this is the lady's first day in the market and that she's selling her own paintings. Rodney is very complimentary and tells her that he's also an artist, but when she describes where she studied and Rodney tells her that he was at Basingstoke, she looks confused, let's say. They introduce themselves.
Oh, by the way, my name is Rodney.
Victoria. Well, Vicky.
We go back to Del briefly to see that he is struggling to sell any of the cutlery, even though he's only charging £3.50.
I know.
And for some reason, that annoying customer is still there, even though he clearly has no intention of buying anything. But Del is interrupted by Trigger saying hello to him as he's sweeping the roads. It's quite funny how Del just gives up selling and lets everyone start walking away just so he can have a chat with Trigger.
I know, yeah, he just goes over to the back. It's so funny.
Del decides to lower the price of the cutlery to £3.
£3? Here, I'll have one of them, Del.
What do you mean, you'll have one of them?
£3, they're a bargain.
Trigger, those are the ones that you sold me last week for a nicker each.
No, they ain't the same. Mine didn't have them on.
So here we see that Trigger is still doing some trading with Del on top of his road sweeping job. And we get confirmation, as if we needed any, that Del made the labels himself, just as that customer accused him of doing. So I don't know why Del didn't just let Trigger buy one in front of everyone, because he might have sold more. Like, it's that time when he was selling the watches and he sold one and then everyone else sort of buys one. He should have just said, yeah, okay, here you go for £3. You can have it, to Trigger.
I don't
understand why he said no and took Trigger to one side and explained.
I was just going to say,
Anyway.
is there another time when that happens with Trig, when he says he wants to buy the thing and Dell's like, that's the one you already sold me? I feel like that's a recurred joke.
There's definitely times that Trigger wants to buy something that's really stupid. I know, I'm just thinking of he says Trigger bought a wig. He said he wanted it for an emergency.
Yeah. I feel like there's another time when Trigger says he'll buy something and Dell says, oh, those are the ones you sold me last week. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm just forgetting.
There is a scene with Trigger and Boise, which I can't think which episode it is, when he tries to explain to Trigger that, that's it. It's about the video recorders. When he explains they don't work, and then Trigger says, 70 nicker each. I'll have one.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, Trig, what it is. Okay, I'll drop one round.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the
That
part
might
you're
be the thing I'm
about.
thinking of. Yeah. Okay, fine. Carry on.
Yeah, okay. So Dell notices a policeman and he tells everyone to scarper before you get your collars felt from his stall. And then he sees Rodney is not doing his job, but is instead talking to Victoria.
Look at that stupid little dipstick.
So we get dipstick again here. We were talking about this before, that we weren't sure how many times dipstick had been used at this point. So it's picking up momentum. Dell realizes that there are more police officers, and this causes him and Trigger to pull a stunt so Dell can get away.
You are looking for the Hilton Hotel?
See, Hilton Hotel.
Turn left at the top of the road
See?
and you'll see a bus stop. Big red bus.
See?
Take the 159 to Park Lane, and that is where the Hilton Hotel is.
Oh, see. Thank you, Jean. Bonsoir.
Don't get many tourists round this way. Hey, officer.
No. Especially tourists that speak 3 different languages all at once.
So Dell is gone, and we go back to Victoria and Rodney's conversation. Rodney is asking how much the paintings are, and Victoria is telling him various prices ranging from £50 to £85, which leads Rodney to explain.
People round here don't pay £85 for a painting. People round here don't pay £85 for a car.
Victoria decides that he's right, and she asks him to help her take her stuff back to the car, which prompts Rodney to look over to where Dell was standing and seeing that he has left. So here Victoria is not very observant, because Rodney looked over to where Dell was standing earlier to say that his brother had gone home, and Rodney was standing next to Dell when she first spotted him, so surely she must have known they were associated with each other when she decides to insult Dell in the next scene.
Maybe, but they weren't that close, were they? I don't know. It's hard to say.
He literally looked over to the spot where Dell was standing and went, oh, my brother's gone home. So she's a bit stupid. Anyway, she asks Rodney his name one more time.
Oh, Rodney.
What's your Dave?
No, my name is Rodney. He's just very thick.
So we have to have a Dave joke when we've got Trigger in the episode.
Yeah.
Obviously, Trigger's not in the rest of the episode. So Rodney tells Victoria what he does for a living.
Me and my brother, we buy and sell this and that.
Do you specialise?
No.
Victoria describes the market as stimulating and claims that she would love to work there every day. And honestly, this just comes across as insincere to me. She's like a rich person wanting to experience how the other half live, but also have the ability to go back to their rich lifestyle anytime they like.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a very common thing. I mean, I don't think it's insincere. It's natural for people who live in or raised in an isolated kind of way, or only knew rich people, to find things like that stimulating. It's just the way that they act as if it's like a tourist attraction and they're just dipping their toe in. That's the thing, because it's like that Common People song by Paul.
Oh, I mentioned that later. Oh, you just said it. I literally put that down.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, this whole episode reeks of that. She's basically like,
Yeah.
she comes along, she's like, I want to be like a normal person, but she doesn't really. She just finds it all fascinating, and she sincerely does enjoy it and find it interesting. But then when she meets somebody like Dell, who actually does epitomize that, she's disgusted by him at the opera and stuff.
And
So-
she finds out something about Rodney later, which we'll go into, that is also very common, that common people have had like drug charges. So,
Right?
you know.
Yeah, it's so tame what Rodney did, like especially by today's
Yes.
standards. But anyway,
Totally
we'll get
agree.
to that later.
Yes. So she mentions the lovely characters, but then she talks about Dell.
Yes.
I know that they're not all lovely. Did you spot that noisy little person selling the tatty cutlery?
Yeah, that's my brother.
Again, pretty unbelievable she didn't make that connection before she said that. So she's apologetic, but Rodney kind of agrees with her about Del. But he adds...
But he's as good as gold, really, you know.
So it's nice that he did choose to stick up for Del in this situation, even when he's not there listening. So they arrive at Vicky's car, and we can see that she drives a Mercedes. Given everything that they say about that area that they live in, I'm surprised that car would have been safe parking there.
Right,
and
I
would have
thought
tried
that
to
too.
steal it.
Yeah. It's just chilling
Yeah.
there in the alley. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit weird that nothing happened to it at all. I mean, like, not scratched or anything. I mean, maybe it did. They didn't mention it, though. So Rodney's about to part ways with Vicky, telling her that he...
Usually go down to Fatty Thumb.
...for his lunch, and she decides that she wants to join him, despite Rodney saying that she won't like it. And I think this is the only time we ever hear them call Sid's calf the Fatty Thumb.
Yeah, that's right. So it's my understanding that it's a nickname for a greasy... So in the script, I'll just do this note now, it says the greasy thumb. Rodney does make it clear that he means Sid's calf in this moment.
Yes.
But we just call it that affectionately. So I think that's a general term for that kind of cafe. The greasy thumb,
Right,
and
like
then
the greasy spoon,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
And for some reason they say fatty thumb in the actual episode, but the script says greasy thumb. So I don't know if that was just either a mistake or a choice, but that's not the name of the cafe, is it? I mean, they always call Sid's Cafe Sid's, but we've seen outside establishing shots that they have other names, like the Old Oak Cafe. So yes, it's not called that, right? And they never say fatty thumb again.
But yeah, it's just interesting that he explains that it's called this in this episode, and that's what they call it, and that's the affectionate name, and it's never ever mentioned again in any other episodes.
Right.
So,
I think it's just to highlight the type of cafe it is in this episode, right?
And maybe to try and make Vicky sort of look even more sort of what she is, or being like, oh my God, it's called the Fatty Thumb. I want to go, because it sounds really horrible and gross. Like, yeah. It's almost like she's conducting an experiment with Rodney.
A little bit, yeah.
So that's all I had for that scene. Any notes before we go to the Fatty Thumb dude?
Yeah, so I've got quite a lot. I hope this isn't like boring
go for
to
it.
listen back to. I'm hoping everybody will agree that we want to discuss every point of this. But okay, so first we'll start with the location. So this market setup was built in an alleyway behind the station on Blakey Road. So it'd been tough for them to find a street in Salisbury that replicated London, that was nearby to the house that they used at the end. So Tony Dowse said that he'd been around the whole city. Everything looked too middle class. But this was actually behind the studio setup that they had, so it was very close. So the irritable punter that you discussed, he was played by Paul McDowell, and he has a pretty impressive list of credits on IMDb, including movies such as National Lampoon's European Vacation. And he was in another show with Nick Lyndhurst, which was The Two of Us. So maybe he knew John Sullivan quite well and wanted to play an irritable punter.
Yeah.
So we mentioned Sarah Duncan playing Vicky. She remembers that John Sullivan said during casting, "We found our Vicky," when she did her reading.
Yes.
So despite that, they saw actresses for another day after they did her reading, and they liked another actress a lot, but apparently she was too beautiful for Rodney. So it actually did say in the script, as a description of Vicky, this is interesting, she is in her early 20s, casually to scruffily dressed, but attractive without being stunning.
I mean, I think they nailed that, to be honest, with her casting. Because, yeah, she's a pretty girl. She's a pretty girl.
She's a pretty girl, yeah.
She's not like, wow, like take your breath away,
Well,
which is...
they had the same problem later,
makes
right?
sense.
Because even though I didn't see this in any of the books I read lately, I think it's fairly well known that Elizabeth Hurley was considered for Cassandra, right? And they didn't want her because she's too beautiful, which
she's too gorgeous.
It does make sense, because, like, yeah, somebody like... Nothing against Nick Lyndhurst, but more the character of Rodney wouldn't necessarily marry an Elizabeth Hurley, would he? I don't know.
No.
I mean,
unlikely.
I think all the women that are cast in the show are very realistically, beautiful.
Agreed.
We're not talking about, like, fake looking.
Hollywood movie star, kind of beautiful.
It doesn't make sense. It's the same way they do, like, soap casting, isn't it? They sometimes cast really overly stunning, beautiful women and men to be in the soaps, but a lot of the time they cast what were considered to be normal looking people.
Yeah, I think that's important for a show like Only Fools and Horses. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even David Jason and Nick Lyndhurst, they're both attractive in their own rights, when they were younger especially. Sometimes I had a bit of a crush on Nick Lyndhurst, particularly Series 6 Nick Lyndhurst.
Series 6?
I thought he was very handsome in that series. Yeah.
It's the suit.
Yeah, it's true. They did. They cleaned him up a little bit in Series 6, and obviously he was dating Cassandra. So, And his boyish good looks, Adele always points out. So.
Yeah. So it says here in the script that Vicky speaks with a softer, less grating Sloane Ranger accent. So I had to look this up, and I found a reference here to something that I would have had to look up for Yuppie Love. You'll know what it is when I read this. A Sloane Ranger refers to an upper class or upper middle class British person, particularly a woman, whose lifestyle and accent became prominent in the 1970s and the 1980s. The term combines Sloane from Sloane Square in Chelsea, London, with Ranger from the Lone Ranger, and the corresponding male is often called a Rah or a Hooray Henry. Do you remember the reference to Hooray Henrys?
Oh, God. I know Hooray Henry, but I can't remember.
It's in Yuppie Love when they're talking about selling the flat, and he's like, if they go selling them to Hooray Henrys, where are they going to go?
Hooray Henrys, yeah.
So I would have had to look that up, and now I know. The Hooray Henry is the male equivalent of the Sloane Ranger, and it kind of depicts her style of accent. So the accent is a distinct form of received pronunciation characterized by elongation of vowel sounds, a slower pace, and the use of specific phrases like okay yeah, and it sounds in a very posh and upper class sound. So we know that when we get Stephen, who is not a yuppie, but he is, and he says, and they point out the okay yeah for sure thing that they do in the Jolly Boys outing. So John Sullivan obviously had an incredible knowledge of all these different dialects and accents and stuff, and sort of he knew what it meant about the person, where they were from, like what their cultural background might have been. So he said that just in one word in the script, Sloane Ranger accent. I didn't know what it meant, but now we do. So we know that she's supposed to...
What about Miranda? Would Miranda be considered to have had that kind of accent? Because she's a posh tart.
But I feel like Miranda wasn't like a yuppie posh. Didn't we say when we did Yesterday Never Comes what it said about Miranda's accent? It said something.
Probably.
Yeah, and it wasn't Sloane Ranger. So Sloane Ranger is, again, like a little bit of a mix of what is considered to be not uber posh, like Miranda, because Miranda's very posh.
Yes.
Vicky is, like, posh in a yuppie kind of way, but not posh like Miranda. Okay, so then when Del says...
I'm going to go and give Miss Diane a bell.
Did you have any idea what that meant?
I assumed it had something to do with the cutlery being posh, but no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know. And this was another one I had a hard time because I looked it up on the internet and I couldn't find anything. So I asked the audience. No, I asked Mom and Dad. So Mom and Dad think it's a reference to a soap that Nan used to watch called Crossroads, about a motel in Birmingham.
Right.
And there was a character called Benny who was a bit simple, and he always looked to a waitress called Diane, and he called her Miss Diane, and Benny wore a beanie hat. So we think that that's what this is a reference to. Please let us know in the comments if you actually know if that's correct, because that's what we think. So on to the policeman that pulls them aside. So he was played by Andrew Reedman, who was also in The Two of Us, John Sullivan's show, but he was also in a lot of other things. He actually played a policeman in Coronation Street on many occasions over the years. And he was also in 23 episodes of Emmerdale Farm. So he's a little bit typecast as a policeman.
Yes, he's got one of those faces.
So this is a discussion point. So I've read all of the bad reviews on IMDb, every single one of them. And it seems that one thing that people commonly think is that something's off in this episode to do with Rodney's confidence level chatting up Victoria. A lot of people say it's not in character for him. He wouldn't do that. He's not confident in any other episodes, so why did he just charge over there and chat her up? And I would like to say that I don't agree with that, and I've never thought that. I think he comes over because of that smile she gives him, and he actually still seems his normal self. He's shy and uncertain. Yes, perhaps he's a little bit more articulate and he's able to talk to her than normal. But I feel like that was a deliberate writing point from John Sullivan to show that they were kind of kindred spirits and they would have been good friends more than they should have been a couple, because it almost hints that their relationship is more friendship. And the way that Rodney's comfortable around her from the beginning would have been a way of showing that they were meant to be more friends.
Yeah.
And if you talk about overconfident, I would say he's confident in yuppie love. He comes up to Cassandra and starts chatting her up. That's overconfidence, but not this.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because I never thought of Rodney as being overly confident in this scene.
No.
As you said, he has two indications that he's good to go before he goes over, with the two smiles. Mm-hmm. And also, he goes over and talks to her about what's on her stall. It's not like he goes over to her and he's like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Like, and talks about her personal life. He's literally asking questions about what she's selling, which could be a customer talking to someone that, they're buying from. So
right.
it's not it's not like the conversation is particularly flirty. With regards to the nature of their relationship, I mentioned this quite a few times throughout the episode breakdown. I feel like it's constantly being represented in different ways depending on the scene and what's sort of required for the scene, because there are definitely a few occasions, I think more from Vicky than Rodney, where I really think Vicky seems very into Rodney in certain parts of this whole episode.
Yeah.
And I'll point those out as we come to them, more than Rodney into her. I feel like Rodney, the smile that he does, the creepy one, that is an indication that Rodney fancies her. But I also feel like as soon as Rodney starts talking to her, because he alludes to this in the scene in the flat, that they don't have anything in common, and therefore Rodney's attraction kind of goes away a bit, whereas Victoria's is intensified because she likes the fact that Rodney is this person that's, again, a common person. So I think that her attraction gets more throughout the episode, and that's why she's so disappointed at the end when she finds out about the drug thing. And Rodney did honestly just want to be friends. After he started talking to her from this first scene, I think he genuinely just wanted friendship.
Yeah. So yeah, another 2 points that back up exactly what you said. At the very end of the scene, Vicky is the one that asks Rodney to lunch, not the other way around. And Rodney does not lie at all about his job and his brother or anything. This is so polar opposite to the way Del acts around women, like especially in dates where he fabricates this entire lie about his income and his name and everything. Rodney just comes along and says exactly what art school he went to, what he does for a living, and that Del was his brother, without like hiding any of the truth. So it doesn't scream to me that anything is off about Rodney's behavior in this scene. If anything, it's just nice to see him being himself around a woman. And I remember thinking this when I was a kid. They're cute together.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So that was all I had.
So now we're going to go to the Fatty Fam, Sid's Cafe, and it looks very different to previous versions of Sid's Cafe that we've seen. So it's packed with people, for starters. All of the other scenes in Sid's Cafe so far that we've seen have had maybe a few people sitting at the tables, but this is like, bursting at the seams, and Rodney has to kind of like maneuver around people to get to his table. So Sid is still smoking while serving food, and that is just disgusting.
That's just part of his character, isn't it? They always have him with the cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Yeah.
Bleh, so gross.
It is gross.
So Rodney collects the bubble and squeak that he's ordered for he and Victoria, and Vicky says,
I think it's absolutely lovely in here.
Again, she comes across to me as a patronising rich person.
That's pushing it a little bit lovely in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, come on. So she asks what bubble and squeak is, and actually I didn't know that until I watched this, and this is the only reason I know what bubble and squeak is because of this episode of Only Fools and Horses. I don't remember us ever having it as a kid or anything like that.
No, we did have it.
They do sell it in M&S in the frozen section now in Hong Kong, so I buy it occasionally. Yeah. But it's a traditional British thing that I had no idea about.
Yeah.
Although when I was a kid, I did think it looked horrible, but that's probably just because it's in Sid's Cafe.
I think it sounds good. Yeah, I mean, basically anything that you mash up and fry, I mean, you can't go wrong, can you?
True. So Rodney and Victoria discuss going to art galleries, and then Victoria suggests that they go to the National Gallery together. So we've got her suggesting again here.
She did it.
And Rodney says Kushti, which I think is the first time we've heard it since From Prussia with Love.
So I wrote here that this was the first time that we heard Kushti, but then I remembered that it was in From Prussia with Love.
From Prussia with Love.
Yeah, but
I think it's just those two times, right?
I think it's the only time that we ever hear Rodney use it in normal conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like he just says it here as if he's Del, and I think that was because they wanted to have the moment where he explained what it was, and that's for the audience as well as Victoria.
Yeah, true. And I think it's also it's to make it clear that Victoria doesn't know any London slang terminology, and she's not in that world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice writing, actually.
So Rodney made out that he's an equal to Del in their partnership. Now, technically he is, but he doesn't really, pull the strings. But he says that because he's an equal, he can give himself the day off.
Yes.
So they can go to the art gallery tomorrow. And Victoria asks Rodney if he likes opera. And this is a bit of him trying to impress her, but I'm not sure it's because he fancies her or not. It's more that he maybe just feels a bit stupid if he says no, but he kind of nods along. And she mentions there is a production of Carmen being staged, and she has been unable to get tickets. This thing must have been ridiculously difficult to get tickets for if someone in the royal family couldn't get them. And I dread to think how much Del paid for the tickets in the end. So Rodney questions why Victoria is in Peckham.
It's so rough and raw and vibrant. I saw a woman spit yesterday.
All of Vicky's dialogue, and this is what you just said, makes me think of the song Common People by Pulp. If you don't know that song, look at the lyrics and you'll understand what I mean. So we find out that Vicky was brought up in boring Berkshire.
I didn't even realise there was a real world until I decided to make art my life.
Egg and chips?
I suppose that's why I like it round here. Must be the artist in me.
Ugh, pretentious. Blech.
Oh, you don't like
Pretentious.
Vicky?
Moi.
Pretentious moi.
I don't. That's for our Fawlty Towers fans. So here we find out that Vicky's mother was a painter and that she died in a skiing accident, something that becomes very important for the plot later on. But this actually gives Rodney and Vicky something to bond over.
Yes.
I'm really sorry, Vicky. I know how much that must have hurt you.
I don't think so, Rodney.
Oh, yeah, I do. See, same thing happened to me when I was only 5.
And Victoria, for some reason here, assumes that Rodney's mother was also killed in a skiing
Yeah.
accident, which
It's a
is
little
just
bit weird,
ridiculous
yeah.
for her to assume that. Yeah. But Rodney corrects her.
No, Mum weren't skiing. According to what the rest of the family tell me, Mum didn't do a lot of skiing. No, she just did something wrong with herself.
Okay, interesting. You said she did something wrong. That's not the line.
Oh.
That's in my notes. So I always thought that too. She did something wrong. That's what I thought. And I was like, what did that mean? She did something wrong. The line is she had something wrong with her. He mutters it too much. That's why we
oh my
all.
God.
Yeah.
I actually wrote down a note. Am I assuming that they're referring to drugs or AIDS or something when he says that?
I always thought when I heard that line, she did something wrong, exactly as I thought you said, that she OD'd, yes. But now, because they didn't hint towards that. Yeah, they didn't get to Joan's death in Rock and Chips. We never really find out what was supposed to have killed Joan. But Dell says the hospice took care of her when she was ill.
I was about to say,
and she
yeah,
hadn't.
so-
And in Rock and Chips, she didn't show any signs of drug abuse. She just got sick. And yes, it could have been AIDS, but she got sick and she died. And so, yeah, that line in the script is she had something wrong with her. Now, let us know if you always thought it was she did something wrong, because that's exactly what me and Heather both thought.
Yeah, she just did something wrong. That's all. That's what I hear that as every single time.
Yep.
Wow.
I think it's because he
Come on,
mutters
Nick
it.
Lyndhurst. Your articulation.
But he's Rodney, yeah. But though, without the laugh track, imagine if there'd been a laugh track. Although, would people have been laughing at this line? Probably not. But
I didn't watch that scene back on the DVD version because I know there's nothing cut from that scene on the DVD version. So I only watched the scenes that I know that were hacked to bits on the DVD version. But there probably is a little bit of uncomfortable laughter in that scene.
That's a good point, yeah. So we're still up to the point of the episode where we don't think anything's been cut yet. And so John Sullivan liked all these scenes then.
Well, these scenes are kind of necessary for the relationship with Vicky and Rodney to be established. Because if you cut any of this, honestly, you won't sort of believe them as friends if you cut any of this stuff, to be honest. So now Vicky drops the bombshell.
Lord, look at the time. I must dash, otherwise they start worrying.
Will do.
Special branch.
So she explains that she needs protecting because her father is the Duke of Melbury. Rodney is understandably shocked. Vicky leaves saying that she'll see him tomorrow at the National Gallery. And we see a man passed out on the table that they were sitting at. Now, to this day, I don't understand what the joke is here. Is he supposed to be sleeping or dead? Or is it that they were sitting there having a conversation and someone was passed out at their table and they didn't bat an eyelid? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I always thought it's kind of, the cafe is just so rough that maybe some unhoused people hang out in there and sleep. That's what I thought. It's just supposed to show that the class difference. That's all. That's my thoughts.
It's like a focus of that very last shot on Rodney. So I was just wondering, like, what's the joke? I never really understood, because I assumed it was like something we were supposed to get from something they said earlier, or
No, I just think it's.
But you reckon it's just Sid's Cafe?
Yeah. Right? It's just the cafe.
Because, I mean, like, if I was eating a meal and someone was, like, asleep on my table, I think I'd feel a bit weird
I mean,
about
it might be a way of trying to show that Victoria really is genuinely what she's saying, and that is that she finds this all so fascinating and she's not disgusted by stuff like a random person asleep on her table, because she gets up and leaves and doesn't bat an eyelid, and she sits there and she loves the cafe.
Well, that's what I said. Maybe that is the joke, that they don't bat an eyelid. I'm not sure. But,
Pretty sure.
But Rodney does seem happy at the end of the scene about Victoria's father being the Duke of Melbury. When he thinks about it and she's left, he kind of sort of morphs into a smile. So I think he's happy about it.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Any notes on that scene, dude?
Yeah, so the cafe was a real cafe, kind of obvious, I think, that it's not a set. And they used a cafe that was nearby, but I couldn't find the name for it, so let us know, because I know there are a lot of like location experts and they go around all the locations and take pictures, so if you know the name or what the name was at the time, let me know. But it says in the recurring sets chapter of the lovely Jubbly book that it is completely reasonable to suggest that the hygiene-shy proprietor Sid would continue to change locations over the years, and it's not meant to be the same cafe each time. And the last time we saw Sid's cafe prior to this was to Hullenbach, which we know is like a cute little seaside one with Roy Slater. Totally different, not a single similarity. And also, I do remember that in Dates and Miami Twice Part 1, they go back to the same location, which was the set, and that's what they used in The Long Legs of the Law. So,
Legs of the Law.
So yeah, it's a little bit implausible, perhaps, that Sid would go back to an old location, but maybe he had more than one location. Yeah,
it's a chain of fatty thumbs.
It is. It's a little bit irritating to constantly read this as a continuity error when I'm looking at all the stuff.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the same cafe that Sid's in. Yes, it's not, but yeah, does it matter? Because yes, it's quite plausible that he would move around. What's funny is that all of his friends are like, okay, where's Sid's cafe now? I'm going to go to this different cafe. Yeah, but I thought that was quite funny.
It's a huge one in like Fatal Extraction. He's got like a massive cafe in that.
Yeah, well, this one's pretty big too, I feel like. Yeah. And
but the one in Fatal Extraction is like a diner, like a dining room almost.
Yeah.
It's so huge.
Then this cafe, like this particular iteration of Sid's, reminds me of when we were kids and we used to go into the bowling in Birmingham on the train and stuff. Sorry, the bus. This is what this reminds me of. Yeah. There were cafes there that were like this, with people smoking and people like all crowded in and you couldn't move. Yeah, so it's pretty realistic representation.
Oh, I'm so glad those days are over, that people can't smoke in cafes anymore.
Yeah, I mean, as long as people can still, I mean, if they want to smoke and they go outside and they're not restricted, they'll be happy. I don't know if people care that much about being able to smoke over their food. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But for the people that don't smoke, it's not very pleasant. But yeah, so I should imagine.
It's awful.
Yeah, if
I can't eat if someone's smoking around me. All my food just tastes of smoke because it's like wafting into my
we're
face.
still of the generation where restaurants were divided into smoking and non-smoking as well. I still remember that when I was a kid, so yeah.
Smoking!
Smoking or non-smoking? Smoking! Mrs. Doubtfire
reference for anyone that wants that one.
Well, it's pretty appropriate generationally, yeah. So, yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, and I also remember when the band came in and all of my friends like dragging me outside into the freezing cold to stand with them while they smoked a cigarette. So if you were one of those people, I did it because I cared about you as a friend, but I freeze my ass off so many years. So, okay, this scene was Sarah Duncan's first scene filmed. So she said it's also the first time she met the cast, and she also knew nothing of the series before she filmed this scene. So it was up to Nick Lyndhurst to explain all the running jokes to her. And she said something that a lot of people say, they got along really well straight away. So I'm seeing this recurring theme with Nick Lyndhurst. A very welcoming, kind person that didn't make people feel outside on the set, even if they were only a one-off character. He was always there to give them hints, explain the jokes, make suggestions. Like, clearly a really great person to work with.
Yeah.
It says here in the script that we see Sid's finger in the bean juice, leaving a greasy thumb mark on the plate.
I don't remember that, but honestly, I probably wasn't looking at it.
No, I looked for it and I said, I guess they decided against this. And they also changed the name from the greasy thumb. So same is implied, but yeah. And that was all the notes I had because we already went over my others.
So now we have our first scene in the Trotter flat, and Rodney is looking through some sort of encyclopedia to find information on the Duke of Melbury. He also has a copy of Country Life with a picture of Vicky next to who I think looks like Prince Charles. Now King Charles, but they say it's Princess Anne later in the scene, but I thought this looked like Prince
Charles.
You
know, they say about inbreeding, don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry for all the royalists out there.
Yeah. We're not royalists. You'll find out throughout this episode. So Vicky's face is quite badly superimposed onto the image, but I think we can forgive that.
I thought it was not bad.
It's pretty bad, dude.
Maybe my eyesight's
like a completely different colour to the red of the rest of the picture. It's like white and the rest of the picture's black. Anyway, so Albert and Dell come home. And Dell wants to know where Rodney has been, and he tells him that he's been down the library. And we find out which book Rodney is reading.
Books. Teach yourself book, is it?
Dell is angry that Rodney has been reading a book about jetties. Hopefully you can explain that one to me. While he has been almost getting arrested down the market. I don't get the jetties thing. What are jetties?
I didn't look that up.
Yeah. Okay. Can anyone tell us what when he says he's been reading a book about jetties? What is that referencing, because neither of us know.
I'll tell you this much, Rodney. You ain't going to get no wages at the end of the week.
Oi, come on, Del. That bird I was talking to in the market, I said I'd take her out tomorrow, and I'm potless, ain't I?
Yeah, well, that's your problem, innit?
Oh, well, thanks a bunch. Oh, that's going to be right embarrassing, isn't it? Especially with her coming from a money background.
Del suddenly takes an interest, and Rodney explains that Victoria's father is rich, ending with...
Have you ever heard of the Duke of Marlborough?
Rodney asks Del to keep it a secret, and he immediately tells Albert...
Dad.
You know that little sword?
Her father only owns a pub.
I think this is quite a clever misunderstanding, actually, because a lot of pubs are named after dukes and duchesses and things like that. So Rodney corrects Del, explaining that he is the Duke of Melbury. He doesn't own the Duke of Melbury. And Del doesn't believe Rodney, prompting Rodney to show Del the picture that he found in Country Life.
Her father, right, is a sort of second cousin to the Queen. Vicky's in here and all. Here, her proper title is Lady Victoria Marsham Hales, only child of Sir Henry Marsham, 14th Duke of Marlborough.
The first thing that Del asks is...
You ain't had a go at her, have you?
Which is interesting, because I would assume that this is exactly what Del would want Rodney to do. So Rodney tells Del that Victoria's mother died in a skiing accident, which is very important for later on. And Albert asks...
If she is a titled lady, what's she going out with him for?
And I have to say that I kind of agree with Albert.
Yeah.
It is explained later in the episode by Vicky's father in some way that she kind of goes through phases of picking up common people and befriending them. But Rodney is obviously insulted by what Albert says. And this prompts Del to appear to stick up for him. But...
On the other hand, she could be a posh tart fancying a bit of scrag.
So Del now begins to concoct an elaborate reason for why Victoria is giving Rodney the time of day, assuming that the royal family is looking for some common blood to interject into the family tree.
I bet you any money you like that her old man has told her to find herself an husband. And Rodney's in the frame. Rodney, ask her to marry you.
I mean...
Yeah.
This is pretty over the top, even for Del. It would obviously mean the world to Del to be related to royalty. I mean, we've seen this in A Touch of Glass when he met that, a tiny glimpse of royalty and he wanted to get in there so badly. So even though Del has a desire to be a part of the royal family, it does seem a bit silly that he would advise Rodney to rush in like this because it could ruin any chance that he might have.
That Vicky, or whatever her name is, she's the sole heiress of the Marlborough fortunes, right? She's got no brothers or sisters. And the old girl popped her clogs halfway down a giant slalom, right? So when the old Duke finally says, like, bonsoir to this mortal girl, she'll become the Duchess. And do you know what that means?
What?
Albert, come here. I want you to remember this moment, because we could be looking at the future Duke of Marlborough.
Are we both agreed at this point that Del's plan is to marry Rodney to Victoria? Or do we think that this is all a lie and he already knows that it's going to go badly and there's no way that Rodney will be able to marry her, so he's just doing all this so he'll be able to extort a little bit of money somewhere along the line?
I think the only way you can read it at this point, because he hasn't met the Duke of Marlborough and he hasn't met Victoria, is that he genuinely thought that they could get married at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my understanding. Again, yeah, this episode is open to a lot of interpretation.
Because it does feel like Del has some sort of plan, given how he behaves. It's almost like you could excuse all of the behaviour that Del does throughout the episode because it's all part of a master plan for Victoria and the Duke of Melbury to pay Rodney money to get out of their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then that's kind of rubbish if you consider he only asked for £1,000 because he could have asked for an awful lot more.
Yeah, I don't know. It's confusing. You'll have to tell me later if the orders change, because somebody said online the other day that when Del goes to the dinner, he's already agreed with the Duke that he's going to sabotage the meal and show Rodney up, and Duke will have the right to throw Rodney out. That's impossible because they don't have the discussion until after the meal, right?
No.
Yeah, there's so many different ways people interpret this episode. So again, I want to see a really fully packed comment section with everyone and your theories.
Yeah, well, okay, so from our perspective at this time, then I guess we're both agreeing that we think that Del is genuinely trying to marry Rodney off to Victoria, because there's not really any other reason that he would be doing anything else at this point.
Well, here's another thing, another part that I guess is in the argument of that, because at the end he makes $1,000, right? But
he doesn't, but yeah, he wants to.
So he's supposedly supposed to make $1,000, but Rodney didn't take the money. But here, Del gives Rodney a ton of money, right? here. It says,
Yeah.
It says in the script, Del produces a wad of money. I can't remember how much he gives him, but he pays for the gallery. He pays for the tickets from Limpy Lionel, and he pays a monkey at the hunting store for his clothes.
Yeah.
So did Del even make any profit?
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah. So he doesn't actually take the money out at the end of this scene, but yeah, like those tickets alone must have been at least a couple £100 for the 4 tickets, if not more, because they were so hard to get hold of. And you're right. And then like a monkey's £500, so he pays that in the hunting shop.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Like he would have made nothing. That's why £1,000 seems like a really weird amount for Del to ask for.
Yeah.
Very low.
It's low.
And also because they're royals and they could probably afford a lot more than that.
True, yeah, that's another good point.
Yeah, there's just something a bit, I don't know. Anyway, we'll get to it later. So Rodney explains.
Me and Vicky, we're more mates than anything else.
So again, confirmation that Rodney is seeing this as a friendship at this point. The look that Rodney gave her in the market when she smiled again could indicate more, but as I mentioned, talking to her probably changed his mind.
Maybe he's playing it cool as well because he doesn't want to get embarrassed.
He could be, and of course letting Del know anything probably is never a smart move because look what happens. So Rodney explains that Victoria wanted him and her to go to see Carmen, but she couldn't get tickets.
If you want tickets, you shall have tickets, Cinders.
So as always, we see that Del has so many connections and can get hold of absolutely anything from anybody, which, must be a wonderful position to be in. So that's all I have for that scene. Any notes from you, dude?
Yeah, so we're going to highlight this now, and this is very important, and it comes back at the end of the episode, the entire episode. All of the Nelson Mandela scenes were shot in an absolute chaotic rush in the last few days leading up to Christmas. So the location shooting had all been done by this point, including the dinner scene that everybody hates so much. This was filmed after, and there was no studio audience, and it was in the flat set that they always use, and so much of it has been cut. So if anybody has the original scripts, look at both of the scenes in the flat, and they are nothing like what's in the script. Lines are changed, lines are cut, huge chunks of dialogue are cut. I don't know what was actually filmed and cut, or whether they just just read through this real quick, because they were so panicked that they were talking about doing it live on Christmas Day. That's how tight this was. So I'm gonna read a little bit of it out. Actually, because every note I have here is this is cut, that's cut. So you said he doesn't produce the money. So I'm at a step in the script where it says Del produces a lot of money. He says, I want you to pay for her to get into that art gallery tomorrow. And then Rodney says, no, art galleries are free. Cheers, Del. So I guess the art gallery is free. So it says Rodney takes the money, and Del says take her for a slap-up meal, don't get Oliver Twist or nothing, we don't want a scandal. So he's saying don't get drunk, Rodney. So this would have all been foreshadowing for the last scene. Yeah, they talk about the Da Vinci cartoon in the scene. That's referenced to later, but they didn't end up saying it in this scene.
They talked about the Da Vinci cartoon in the last scene in Sid's Cafe. I didn't mention it because it's not really relevant.
But
they talked about art galleries. But
so Del mentions it here. He would then bring it up later, but this got cut. So Rodney exits the scene, and then there's this whole load of dialogue between Albert and Del here that basically Albert says, oh, that's weird, isn't it? Like young Rodney marrying into the royal family. How do you think the Queen will feel about it? And Del says, dunno, really. I suppose when she first hears the news, she'll be a bit gutted, but when she meets him, she'll like him. He's a nice boy, friendly, polite, respectful. He'll have to knock them roll-ups on the head. You can't waltz around a garden party with a packet of green Rizzler sticking out your morning suit. Yeah, so this, I guess, is pretty telling. So Del says, no, we're not going to ponce them off. That sort of thing causes family rifts. Another thing, let's not count our chickens before we've crossed them. I'm starting to get a funny feeling. Albert says, why? That something might go wrong? And Del says, if we leave it in Rodney's hands, it's a guarantee. He ain't got a clue when it comes to women. That bob's been blown out more times than a windsock. So that gets used later in another episode. Sometimes you'll have to help Rodney to help himself, Albert says. But what can you do? Del says, we can help him make the right impression. He's got to prove that he appreciates the finer things in life. And then Del says at the end of the scene that he is going to get tickets for all of them. So if this scene had been left in the original state, we wouldn't have been surprised when we saw Del show up at the opera. There's a lot of lines in this episode, and this will come up a lot later in the episode. In fact, the final scene, almost all of the jokes that are cut out get used in future episodes. So there's so many lines in this script that were in this script originally, and then they ended up getting used in later episodes. So Blown out more times than a windsock is definitely used in another episode. I can't put my finger on it right now.
I know blown up more times than a beach ball.
Yeah. We'll remember when we get to it. But yeah, that was cut. Yeah. Del saying that Rodney's going to mess the whole thing up and he needs to be there with him is weird. Yeah, but like I say, they might have never recorded the scenes in this, like, to this extent because they didn't have time. So what they might have done is grab the script and been like, read what you can, quick.
Yeah, they probably just had to hack it up. The irony that that's what would happen later as well, when it was actually filmed. To be honest, everything you just said, I think it's all kind of comes across anyway in the episode, so you probably just don't need to state it. The only thing that I will say, because I say it later as well, is that this episode has hardly any Albert in it at all.
No.
And I think that maybe those scenes would have been nice for him to have just to be in the episode a bit more, because honestly you could have filmed this entire episode without Albert and it wouldn't have made a difference to the plot at all.
But it's nice to have his representing the audience point of view later, because he's like, oh god, like Del's drunk, Del's stepping on the peas, like he's the one who's sitting down there fully aware of how awful Del's behavior is. So I guess they have that, and then they also have that cutaway that takes you away from the table. So that's what he's used for. But underutilized and unnecessary. But I hate to say that because we love Albert. But
no, it's I mean it's the same with the fact that this episode only has a little bit of trigger in it at the beginning. It doesn't have any Boise, no Marley, no Denzel. I mean, this is one of the Christmas specials. Obviously, later Christmas specials, we'd always make sure we had all these characters. So that's maybe another reason this episode suffers a little bit because of the lack of those characters. So we cut to Rodney and Victoria in the back seat of her car on the way to the opera.
Even Daddy couldn't get tickets for tonight, and he tried everywhere.
Oh, it was nothing really. I have, let's just say, contacts.
Now, Victoria's driver keeps giving Rodney knowing looks in the dash mirror, which do seem to get Rodney a little bit sort of sheepish each time that he does it. But actually, this entire sequence in the DVD version is pretty much cut. There's no interaction between the driver and Rodney. He literally says, let's just say I have contacts, and then it stops and they're already at the theatre.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why this was cut, maybe just for time, because it's just emphasising Rodney's awkwardness again and the fact that Rodney is lying to Victoria in this part. You said he wasn't lying to her at any point. This is one part where he does lie to her because he says, I just told my man, get him. Like, he's got the bluster that Del uses here.
Yeah. I don't know, because John Sullivan wrote in the script that the chauffeur gives Rodney a look that indicates he knows he's bullshitting. So he wrote this.
It's a knowing look. Yes.
Maybe they cut it just because, again, it's kind of unnecessary. It's not needed for the story. It does, it gives us, again, the audience perspective, because now Rodney is inflating the truth and lying.
Yeah.
I mean, not inflating the truth. He's lying.
He's just lying.
We don't need that. But yes, like, I always thought that's because also it might indicate that Vicky takes a lot of different guys out and he's just like, I know your type.
That's true. It could be that too. This is one of those, again, question mark sequences, but it's cut anyway in the DVD version. So they arrive at the theatre and Victoria says that she hopes the tickets aren't forged, which makes Rodney think that they might be. Well, and actually, I can't believe that did not cross Rodney's mind before this, that they might have been forged.
Talk about looking uncomfortable there. Rodney kind of gave himself away.
I know. Well, this is the thing. So I said he stares at the man collecting the tickets in a very strange way, and I'm not really sure what emotion Nick Lyndhurst was going for here, because he doesn't look scared. He looks like he's in a trance, which is a bit of a weird one, and his facial expression is strange. It doesn't really fit the situation if he was trying to play it cool. So the tickets are accepted, fortunately, and Vicky and Rodney go inside. And now we come to another part that is cut down in the DVD, where Rodney gets the programme for Victoria. In this version, we get
2 programmes, please.
That's £8, sir.
No, 2 programmes.
They're £4 each, sir.
In the DVD version, the 2 programmes, the £4 each, sir, is all gone.
Yeah.
She just says, that's £8, and he takes the programmes.
Yeah.
So, again, just cutting for time, I guess. I guess John Sullivan was looking to get this thing under an hour, so he was just doing things like that.
That's the thing. I think, people say he cut all the scenes he didn't like. No, he cut a bunch of stuff and he wanted it under an hour. That's what I think, yeah.
That's what, because
I think so. A lot of the opera stuff didn't didn't even make Del look that bad. I know we're going to get to it, but yeah, this, like...
Yeah, we're about to get to it.
That's quite important because Rodney's at the opera and he doesn't realise that the programmes are £4 each. And I remember that being quite a thing when I was a kid. Like, oh, wow, it's very expensive there. The programmes are £4 each. They're usually free or a pound or whatever.
I was going to say, in my opinion, I think programmes should always be free. They should be included in the price of the ticket. I think it's extortionate to charge even £1 for a programme. It's extortionate. You shouldn't have to pay to see what you're watching and know details about what you're watching. It's ridiculous to me.
But this is the...
But obviously, I've never been to the opera, the Drury Lane, so...
This is the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, yeah. But that's an important part to highlight the class difference, so that shouldn't have been cut.
I mean, it isn't cut. He just still buys the programme, but his initial reaction to it is cut. He just goes, oh, okay, like... That's £8.
They could have just cut the whole thing then and had him come over to Vicky with the calendar.
Well, they could have actually, because they also cut the line at the end of the sequence before they go in where June says,
"Here, Del, how come she's got a programme and I ain't?"
That's cut in the DVD version, so they absolutely could have cut it because that was the only bit they really needed to keep in if they were going to put that line in. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Victoria explains to Rodney that she has to cancel going to his soccer match.
I must go home, you see. Daddy's invited a few friends down to the estate for the weekend. A shoot and then dinner. I simply have to be there.
It's weird that she calls it soccer and not football, because isn't that an Americanism?
Oh, yes, because unfortunately for me, I've kind of morphed into saying soccer because so Americans know that I mean football. Because if you say football over here, people think you mean...
They think American football. Yeah.
But yes, an English person who has not travelled outside of England would never say, well, very unlikely say soccer, unless that's just something that posh people say. Not that I would know that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know about that.
It does seem weird. She says soccer. Well, we're not posh, no. And like when we grew up, it was football. Yeah. Or footy.
Yeah, footy. Rodney is fine about the fact that she cannot attend, actually, but she invites him to come and join her for the weekend at her home, and Rodney accepts. Yeah. Now, when Rodney accepts, look very closely at her reaction. She definitely fancies him.
Oh.
She does this really coy, kind of almost like a yes to herself when Rodney, it's subtle, but you look at it. And because it seems there's some chemistry between them here. And as I said, I definitely get the impression that Victoria fancies Rodney, even if he doesn't fancy her at this point in the story.
Okay.
So they arrive at the bar and Rodney goes to get her a drink, and that's when Del turns up.
Rodney! Brothers!
And straight away, we seem to get a loud and obnoxious version of Del, I said. So Del is not stupid, so I don't understand why he wouldn't try and act with a little bit more grace and decorum in this particular venue. So especially since he tells June off for not doing that later on.
Yeah, but it is supposed to be his character that he's oblivious. He thinks his personality isn't like abrasive. He thinks that he's just friendly, nice and chatty the way he talks to the woman at the bar. Like, oh, it's going to be a good one tonight. He thinks that is nice. He was the same way in Touch of Glass, wasn't he?
He does, but then he also makes June curtsy. So he does know the difference between like sort of posh behaviour and non-posh behaviour.
I mean, that's the irony of
it,
isn't it? Yeah, of course. But
Rodney is angry.
Del, what the bloody hell are you doing here?
Oh, well, that's charming, that, isn't it, eh? That's charming. After all I've done for you... Well, there were 4 tickets, right, up for grabs. You know me, I love a bit of opera.
So Victoria walks over and Rodney introduces her and Del to each other, although she probably should have recognised him from the market because she was clearly watching him as she commented on him to Rodney.
I didn't realise that you were going to be joining us.
Even though I find the character of Victoria quite unlikable, I do think the actress did a wonderful job at making her posh and patronising.
Yeah, right.
She does very well at portraying this character. So Rodney makes a point of saying that he bought all the tickets and Del kindly backs him up. So there we go, Rodney lying once more, but that's in the uncut version and the DVD version. June enters the bar and Rodney clocks her right away.
I don't believe it.
What don't you believe?
Well, this is the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, right? And somebody has ordered a kissogram.
You saucy git, that's my bird.
So surely Rodney would have recognised June. And having recognised her, he would have known that she was there for Del. The coincidence would have been too big. I mean, Del came on his own, and then June, someone that Del dated like 19 and a half years ago.
She does have a different colour hair, and she doesn't really look...
Well, I actually put that. I said, even though she's got blonde hair, she still looks exactly the same in every other way. And Rodney was obviously looking right at her, so there's no way. I just think that's a bit... Yeah, anyway. So Rodney is worried that his past with Debbie will come out in front of Victoria, which again doesn't really make sense because they can't seem to make up their mind if they fancy each other or not. If they're just friends, why does it matter if she finds out that Rodney dated June's daughter?
Yeah.
But if he's trying to date her, then it matters.
Why does it? No, it doesn't matter. Why does it matter? Are you not allowed to have exes?
Well, no, it's not that. It's just usually you wouldn't want someone talking about your exes when you're on a date with someone else, right? You just wouldn't want that. That's a natural thing that you wouldn't want to happen. So, yeah, it's just a bit confusing again, sort of what Rodney's intentions are here, because on the one hand, he keeps saying, I want to be friends, but then he's like, oh, I used to go out with her daughter.
I think he's confused, right? So
yeah, I don't know. So June is the absolute highlight of this entire episode, to be honest, for me.
Yes.
She's a joy to watch, and you know, all of her dialogue, her interactions, everything about June is wonderful. I really enjoy watching her performance in this episode.
I weren't sure where you got to. Them cars is an half posh.
I agree completely with what you said about June, yeah. She's the highlight of this episode, yeah.
It's a shame she didn't go to the dinner at the end with Del. It would have made all the difference.
Yeah.
So Del has obviously told June how to behave around Victoria when she meets her, because as soon as she meets her, Del sort of hints and then she does a curtsy for her.
It's a great pleasure to meet you, Mum.
And even Victoria looks uncomfortable with this.
So, you're an opera buff as well, are you, June? I saw one once on BBC Two. Our telly had gone up the wall. It was the only channel we could get. It was that world-famous foreign bloke singing, weren't there?
Oh, yeah, wonderful voice.
Oh, yes, very talented. Great big fat git, wasn't he?
Now, this is something that's quite interesting that has been cut from that line that I just played. I didn't play the whole line, but the part I didn't play is also the part that's cut. So they hint here that Del bought the television round for June. And they hint that Del and June have been sort of seeing each other sometimes, you know, ever since, I guess, Happy Returns. So it's interesting that they didn't put that in the DVD version, because I can't think why that would have needed to be cut. Again, maybe just for time, or maybe John Sullivan didn't want that backstory.
It's unnecessary to the plot. I suppose that's why, yeah. If you had to cut out that much... Got to get rid of 15 minutes, and as you know, that's a lot of time in editing.
It is a lot of time.
Just unnecessary.
Yeah,
right?
True. But I just said that it's a shame they didn't decide to start dating properly, because I would have actually loved to have seen more of June.
Me
obviously.
too, yeah. June is a great character.
And I think her and Del were very well suited as well.
They were, yeah.
They'd have been a great comedy duo together, as they are in this
Although
sequence,
it's a shame in this whole opera thing that he treats her the way he does, acting as if she's being inappropriate when he is obviously being... both of them are being inappropriate. But she does stand up
for herself a little bit, which is good.
She does.
So it's actually very awkward between the four of them at the bar. And in the uncut version, those pauses between the dialogue are double the length than they are in the DVD version. So the whole scene feels very dragged out in the uncut version. And with the absence of the laughter, it's even worse.
Yeah.
But again, I think it works, because that situation would be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So... Del continues to try and bluster his interest in opera.
Of course, this is my most favourite opera, this one, you know, Carmen. Oh, love it. Figaro, swan.
That's from the Barber of Seville.
I feel like in this situation, most people wouldn't correct someone if they did that. Or if they did correct them, they would do it in a more sort of like, actually, I think that might be from the Barber. The way she's just like, it isn't Carmen, it's from the Barber of Seville. It just feels a bit like, you're an idiot. I don't know. Maybe just because I'm not a fan of Victoria's character.
I don't know, yeah. I wouldn't correct somebody because I'd feel embarrassed on their behalf, and I just wouldn't correct them.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree with that. Yeah, I'd just be like, what's the big deal? Just letting him think that.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. I don't know what's the matter with me. Now, I always get those two mixed up, you know, the Barber of Seville and Carmen.
Well, Carmen's an hairdryer, isn't it?
One of my favourite lines. Again, just love June. She's brilliant. So they ring a bell and Rodney and Del mistake it for last orders at the bar. And Victoria corrects them again, telling them that it means the performance is about to start.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing all of this is done just to show that they really do come from completely different worlds.
Yes, right. Exactly.
So Rodney escorts Victoria by taking her arm, and then Del leaves June hanging and walks away without her, much to her disappointment.
Here, Del, how come she's got a programme and I ain't?
She can read.
Oh.
Now again, that line is cut in the DVD version. He just says, come on, and goes to walk away. I think she starts talking and it fades out. It's very weird the way that it's cut. So there are a couple of random lines cut in this sequence I'll just highlight here.
You ain't never been to an opera in your life.
So that very aggressive line of Rodney's is cut. I'm guessing because it makes Rodney look really aggressive, because it does.
She's living with a Cypriot geezer now.
I don't even know what that line is when she's talking about Debbie.
It's Cypriot is a native or somebody who lives in Cyprus.
Okay, I didn't even know what that is, but that line is cut. So they cut down the awkward pauses, I mentioned that. And if you watch the cut and uncut version back to back, the cut version feels very rushed. It just feels like they zoom through this scene.
Yeah.
There's no pause. I mean, all of this, I guess, in this scene, especially maybe cutting that last line, is just to make Del look nicer to June, because you mentioned Del's not very nice to her.
Yeah, maybe.
And he accuses her of being illiterate here. I don't know. But then she goes, oh, as though she agrees that she is illiterate.
I'm not sure, if the reason this was cut was just because he's trying to get it under an hour or he didn't like the lines. Yeah, I guess we won't know.
Yeah.
It's like you say, though, the first 2-3 scenes of the whole episode, there aren't any cuts. So I'm guessing he just didn't look at that part of the episode, and he was like, let's look at the parts that are problematic, the opera and the end dinner, and let's chop those up, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Because he probably didn't want to like hack up the early scenes.
No, true. So yeah, that's all I had for that scene. Any other notes?
So this is actually the exterior of the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, and the script originally had this taking place at the Royal Opera House, but it was changed because of the location of the Theatre Royal being more convenient for the shoot. And the foyer that they're in is also the Theatre Royal, but the scenes inside the auditorium that we're about to go into is actually the Buxton Opera House in Derbyshire. So Ray Butt had hired 200 extras to play the audience members.
Wow.
And the Kent Opera Company and their scenery and orchestra are used for the opera. And it cost an awful lot, but it was a very funny scene, so it was worth it. That's a quote from Ray Butt. I agree.
Oh,
Such
no.
a shame they
Poor Ray
wasted.
Butt.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the opera scene
It's all
is
being
funny.
hacked up.
Program seller played by Christina Mitchell, who was also in Just Good Friends. That might explain why they didn't cut her all completely out, because she was in John Sullivan's other series, so she's a friend of John's, maybe. And I wrote, Vicky is quite a hypocrite. She says she loves colourful characters, but seems to look down on Del and June. That's all I wrote, really.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah, one other note. The Figaro line was in the Nelson Mandela script, and it was cut. But they'd already filmed this, so it would have been a repeat, right? They didn't cut it from this scene, so they filmed this. He was supposed to say Figaro, Figaro, Figaro in the flat.
Okay, so this is famously one of the most hacked scenes in the episode. But as we said, we're watching the uncut version for this review, so you might hear some parts that you haven't seen in a long while in the quotes that I put into this scene. So we begin with Del seemingly enjoying the opera. And June is finishing off a plastic carton drink. And I remember these from when I was a kid. I have not seen one of these in so long. The ones that you like, the film top and you sort of poke it through, and the plastic. So everything seems to be fine until we hear June's sound effect, the end of the drink sound effect. I'm not sure what you'd call that, actually. Like guzzling sound effect?
Slurping. I don't know. It's not even,
Slurping?
Just
I don't know what you call that.
That like...
Yeah. It's like, yeah. I can't do it.
We can put it in.
I just put the end of drink sound effect. So she throws the carton on the floor once she has finished, which is cut in the DVD version because all of the arguments caused by Del stepping on it later in the scene are also cut. So we don't need to see that.
Oh, you got to tell me if my favourite bit is cut.
Yeah, I will do. I'll come to it. So Del begins a conversation with her.
It's a blinding opera, isn't it?
It's all right, I suppose. It don't get going, does it?
Well, no, it's not supposed to get going. I mean, it's culture. I mean, you don't come to an opera to enjoy it. You come because it's there.
I've got to say, I actually agree with Del. I wouldn't go to an opera to enjoy it either.
Well, that's because you don't necessarily enjoy it. I don't enjoy it either, but there are a lot of people that do, and I want to know why. But yeah, I mean, I think I can appreciate how clever it is. It's very clever.
Oh, I can always appreciate the art of anything, but yeah, the fact that I would be bored shitless if I went to an opera. So yes, I understand why June is choosing to eat instead of watching the opera. That's all I'll say. So they continue to have their conversation until someone makes a shh sound from a few rows behind them. And they are completely oblivious that it was aimed at them, and they have a conversation that there must be someone talking somewhere. June takes out some licorice all sorts and shares them with Del. Del offers a licorice all sort to Rodney and then one to Victoria, but they both refuse. And when he is offering this, the man in front of them turns around to shush him, and Del gets immediately defensive.
You having a pop at me or what?
No, he ain't. Just be quiet.
Now, all of these interactions with that man in front of them are gone
from
the DVD version. So Del actually, in the DVD version, does not argue with anybody.
Oh, yeah, because
in
that
the
was...
audience. It's pretty much completely gone.
For sure, that's the reason that in this case, John Sullivan didn't like the way Del came across in this scene, too aggressive, so he cut all of those interactions.
He does come across very aggressive, but then so do the people having to go at him. They are also very aggressive, so it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But so Del loudly scrunches up the licorice all sorts box and throws it on the floor. And this is, of course, completely unnecessary. But when I was a kid, I found this sequence very funny.
Me too, yeah.
So, because it's practical, you don't have to, like, you know, listen to any words. You just watch it and it's very funny. But obviously, the fact that Del finds the need to sort of, you know, go through a maneuver of sort of scrunching things up before he puts it on the floor is very annoying for the audience. It's purely there to annoy the audience. So we get a close-up of Rodney's face as Del opens a bag of crisps. Now, everything after the licorice all sorts up to the ice cream is gone from the DVD version. So we don't get the bag of crisps sequence in the DVD version.
That's my favourite line.
And yeah. So even the conductor... yeah, I'm coming to it. So even the conductor supposedly turns around hearing the noise of the crisp bag.
I love that because it just pops up in front of Rodney.
Yeah, he pops up. The way it's filmed is very funny with Rodney's annoyed face. So he offers Vicky a crisp and the same guy turns around to shush him again.
Shh! Don't you shush me, pal.
Del, please.
Vicky also looks increasingly annoyed with Del at this point.
Yeah.
In a quiet part of the music, we can hear Del smacking his lips and crunching loudly on the crisps.
Yeah.
So Carmen enters the stage after her evil laugh, which is all cut in the DVD version. And Del and June appear to be interested in the change of pace. There's like a shot of them from behind when we hear that bit. And I actually noticed in the DVD version that shot of them talking is used at the end of the scene. So they took that little clip and put it at the end.
Okay.
So Del decides to speak to Rodney again.
Rodney,
What?
put your arm around her shoulder. Put your arm round her.
I don't, but Del, this is not the audio.
Shh. Put your sorry in. You just keep on, pal. See what you get.
So again, all this gone. So this is the Del that everybody hates in this episode on full display here in the uncut version. Completely out of order in his behaviour and his reactions to people pointing out his bad behaviour. Not the lovable rogue that we all root for to this point in Only Fools and Horses. I think, yeah, there is a very distinctive personality of Del's coming through in this scene. And he is out of order. He's the one causing the noise and he's having a go at people for telling him off. So again, I can see why it was cut. So Del, again, needlessly rolls up the crisp packet before he throws it on the floor, just to make more noise. And he argues with Junie that she ate all of hers and didn't leave him any. The people behind them are getting increasingly annoyed, so we start to see the great facial expressions of the audience behind them at this point. So now we go a little bit later in the performance, and this is where the DVD version picks back up, because Del is no longer in his seat, and June is finishing another bag of sweets. And Rodney asks June where Del has gone.
It's gone out to the ice cream lady.
So Del is carrying 4 ice creams and trying to find his place, and he has various arguments with other people in the audience as he is calling for Rodney. Rodney does try to get his attention in the uncut version. In the DVD version, this is cut, by waving his arm to get Del's attention, but Del obviously can't see him.
Will you please be quiet? I can't find my place.
Finally, Junie just stands up.
We're over here, Del.
And that's in the DVD version and the uncut version. And he makes his way back to his seat. And he steps on the carton in the uncut version as he gets back to his seat that Junie dropped earlier, which prompts the man in front of them that he's been arguing with a few times to say something this time.
God's sake, how long do we have to put up with this? I didn't know there was a carton on the floor. What did you throw it on the floor for?
Well, how was I to know you were going to tread on it?
Are you going to continue making this noise throughout the entire performance?
I don't know. I might let you off the second half.
Del, will you please just sit down?
I'm trying to listen.
Why don't you shut up then?
Will you please be quiet?
I shall come down there, smack you in the eye in a minute, Joe.
So all of that exchange with all those different audience members attacking him from all around is all gone. And again, I understand why, but actually I've got to say I do find that really funny.
Yeah.
The way that Del reacts to all of them individually and just has these comebacks like straight away to everything. I think it's funny. I don't find Del sort of too aggressive here. I just find it quite funny.
Yeah. I don't know.
Personally.
This was all my favourite scene, and when I saw that it was all cut off the DVD, I have no interest in watching the DVD. I don't think that DVD has been inside a DVD player since the first time I watched it. So it's like 20
Yeah,
years.
I think this might be one of the first times that I've put it in as well, actually, for preparing for this podcast.
I just don't enjoy the episode without the opera scene. The opera scene is the highlight for me.
I mean, it's there, but it's barely there compared to what it was before. To be fair, in reality, if someone was causing this much trouble in such a prestigious venue, they would have been thrown out after the first incident. Yeah. After the first shh, they'd have been gone, to be honest. So Del does not come across very well in the sequence, and again, the absence of the laugh track makes it worse because it's not there to lighten the mood of the scene.
Sure.
So I do understand why Sullivan felt the need to cut this if he was trying to make Del look like a nicer guy. So Del tries to give Rodney his ice cream and he pushes it up against his jacket so it makes a mark, which again doesn't make any sense because Del would have known what he was doing, but maybe he was trying to mark Rodney's jacket just to be a dick, I don't know. But it's very clear. He even shakes a little bit when he presses it up against his jacket. So, yeah. So Rodney and Victoria refuse their ice creams, with Rodney getting pretty angry.
Well, you can stick them where the sun don't shine as far as I'm concerned, as long as you shut up.
That's where the scene ends on the DVD. But in the uncut version, Del throws both ice creams on the floor while loudly munching on his ice cream in Rodney's face. And now we get what is arguably the most famous cut from the episode, where Del begins whistling along to the tune.
Yes.
While he's whistling, we pan over to June, who begins feeling sick, and she starts fanning herself profusely by the end of the sequence. So as a kid, I found Del whistling along absolutely hilarious. I thought that was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen when I watched this episode. And it was something that was a highlight for me. And that part, it is ridiculous. Obviously, again, he'd have been thrown out instantly. But from the point of view of Del just looking so happy when he's whistling, even though everyone else is miserable, it's funny. It is.
Yeah. Is it cut because of Del's behaviour, or is it cut because of the song? Because I don't know. I thought when I saw the edited 2004 version, I thought that all the opera scenes were chopped because of the music. Because like you said, it cuts out the da-la-la, da-la-la. And this scene is cut. So I thought that all the cuts were done for the opera scene for that reason. I didn't think Del was as bad in the opera scene as he is at the dinner.
Yeah, he's not. He's definitely not as bad at the opera scene as he is.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of the things he does here, being argumentative and stuff, as being fairly normal for his character. And also, it's the funny scene. It's a slapstick. You know, who cares if all these posh people are not getting to listen to their opera? Like, I don't care. Yeah. I always thought that all the cuts in this scene were the music, and I think the whistling part, I feel like I thought that was cut because of the song being famous, and it could be.
It might be.
Yeah, because it was home media release, and that makes a big difference to the rights, and there's a lot of rights associated with stage plays and performances and operas, so we could be wrong about the reason, but maybe John Sullivan didn't like that whistling moment, but I kind of feel like that is a really funny moment that everyone remembers, so yes, it doesn't make sense they cut it out.
I mean, actually, I'm trying to think. No, because the other part, I was just thinking about the other really famous bit with Carmen singing the da-ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
That's still in, because that's behind Del trying to find his place in the audience, so they couldn't cut that out, or they didn't cut that out for copyright reasons, so I don't know.
It could just be a certain song, as we know. Certain songs sometimes are subject to different ownership rights. It would be weird if one song in an opera was owned by one person and not another. But
so yeah, do you have any other notes on that scene? Because I was done with that part.
Yeah, so you mentioned my favourite bit, what a crisp. It's the way that the little crisp packet pops up is really funny to me. Every time I watch it, I just crack up. The woman that goes, are you going to continue making this noise throughout the entire performance? She's the only person whose name I wrote down, and that's because I just saw her in a new Netflix movie, The Thursday Murder Club. Her name is Richenda Carey, and she's mostly just a movie extra, but she was familiar to me. So I guess all the other people were cut out anyway, so I could have made a big list of all their names, but I didn't. Why does the theatre sell all these snacks if they don't want you to eat them? I would not sell crunchy crisps and stuff to be eaten in an opera, and they shouldn't allow you to eat in the opera, and maybe they don't in reality. It could be artistic license.
I'm pretty sure they don't. Yes, that's a very good point I forgot to mention. Yeah, most theatres will not allow you to eat or drink when you're watching a show.
Right, so
probably for this exact reason. They probably watched this and went, no more are we letting people have ice creams in the opera.
Yeah, and I also want to say just a personal thing. Every time I go to the cinema, I have a knack for sitting next to the loudest person, and I always think of Del. Not just crisps and popcorn and slurping noises, but Just last week, I sat next to a woman who literally, like, out loud reacted to every single thing on the screen. Oh, no! Oh, wow! And I was like, oh, my God, shut the fuck up.
It's like Brenda in Scary Movie.
Yeah. And
oh, Lord, I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, but the theatre the chain that my husband works for, they have like a little system where if someone's being noisy, you're supposed to write it on your little order card and light up and say, can a manager deal with it? I never feel comfortable doing that.
No, I'd worry that they'd know it was me.
But I do always do like the looking at them every time they do it, kind of slightly subtly kind of looking or looking at my husband and being like, hopefully they'll get the hint. This woman didn't.
This is for me, this is completely different depending on the country you're in. Because
Yeah.
I do remember when we went to see Avatar when it came out,
Yeah.
and we had those complete asshole chavs sitting in front of us, and all of us, we were desperate to say something to them, but we all knew we couldn't because we knew the second we got outside the movie theatre, they would have started on us.
Yeah.
And they probably would have wanted to beat us up,
gotta be
so we didn't say
careful, yeah.
anything. Yeah, but in Hong Kong, I never worry about that. Like, if someone's talking, I'd be like, shh. Would you please be quiet?
I hope that you do it. Like, are you going to continue making
planning to talk throughout the entire movie? Don't you know? I might let you off the second half.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't fear that someone's going to be waiting for me outside because that's just not
No.
what Hong Kong society is like.
No.
But it is like that in the UK and it is like that in the US. So you've got to be
Right.
really careful who you pick your battles with in those countries.
But not at the
So,
Theatre
yeah.
Royale.
So we go outside the theatre and Rodney and Victoria are leaving first.
I am sorry. I am so sorry.
It wasn't your fault, Rodney.
I'm not really sure why Rodney and Victoria had to leave, actually, just because June was sick.
I don't know, because they were all together. I don't know. It's true. Should they have left?
No, I mean, they should have just let Del go with June. That would have made sense. I wonder if Del was like, you guys have got to come. I mean, that would make sense in the context of Del's personality in this episode.
Yeah.
So they see June is being escorted by a doctor with Del following along. And Del and June join Rodney and Victoria outside, and Del makes light of the situation.
Well, the Phantom of the Opera strikes again, eh? Still, I don't suppose it's the first time someone's been sick in there, eh, Victoria?
So Victoria and Rodney clearly just want to leave, even though Del suggests they all go out for something to eat. And Victoria gets in her car, and just as Rodney is about to join her, Del says,
Now, you just behave yourself if you're seeing her back to her flat tonight.
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
Listen to me, Rodney. The last thing we need at this delicate stage of development is for you to go tubbing her, especially after we made such a good impression tonight.
So again, all that is cut on the DVD. Rodney gets into the car without saying anything to Del. There is no dialogue between the two of them. But if we're referring back to Del's plan, surely Rodney impregnating her would have been a good thing because it means they couldn't get rid of them very easily. And Rodney would have automatically become a part of the royal family. On the other hand, Del would have had even more leverage to extort money from the Duke to get Rodney out of Victoria's life if there was a baby involved.
Yeah, it's a
So
bit
I
of
don't
an
know why Del
extreme
says don't
plan,
tub her.
though. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know what Del's plan is at this point, but I'm just saying if Del's plan was either of the plans, then this Rodney getting Victoria pregnant would have been good for the plan. So this line doesn't really make any sense, and it just makes Del look like a bit of an ass. So again, I can understand why it was cut. So Del blames June for the impression that they've made on Victoria, prompting a reaction from Rodney.
Just get away from me, Del, will ya? Just leave me alone.
Again, that's cut. So Rodney gets in the car, leaving Del and June to walk home together. So Del and June's conversation is cut slightly short on the DVD version.
Yeah.
He says something about the woman in front of you felt it, and then it kind of fades out. Whereas in the uncut version, Del starts listing all the things that Junie ate and drank that night. So.
Yeah, and so the script version is even longer than that. So the uncut version fades out just as Del says Benedictine lemonade, right? All the things you put away tonight, Benedictine lemonade fades out.
Yeah.
The script goes on from there to fizzy orange juice, bacon-flavoured crisps, dry-roasted peanuts, and then June says licorice all sorts, and Del says licorice all sorts and the choc. I mean, that's enough to turn a warthog over. June says, before I came out tonight, I had blancmange. Del says, oh, what was that? Oh, no, that's what it was. And June says, I reckon the milk in the blancmange was on the turn. Del says, the only thing that's on the turn around here is you. don't you be Tom and Dick in my van. June says, no, I won't, honest. Del says, well, you get in the back, you ain't sitting next to me.
Oh, wow.
So the script goes, yeah, so they didn't walk home.
So he's even more of a dick.
Yeah, so Del came home in the van. So I'm guessing because that was a location and there wasn't as much time constraint, that was filmed. And so they originally filmed in the uncut version. They did cut that out on Benedictine Lemonade. It's unnecessary that they talk about the blancmange.
Yeah, but it's still giving June more lines, which I would have appreciated because, again, June's great.
Me too, yeah. So I'm guessing, that it's just unnecessary dialogue. But I noticed that the script going on and on about that. So, yeah, and also they didn't walk home. They came in the van. Luckily, they didn't park the van right outside, yeah. So the St. John's ambulance man was played by Gordon Salkalid, who also played Gordon in Red Dwarf episode Better Than Life. Just like Baz from the town hall in Homesick, he was also in Better Than Life. So, and Gordon Salkalid has a lot of other credits on IMDb too. Big list, so I didn't put any down. But I just wanted to bring up Red Dwarf because I love Red Dwarf, and that is all I had. Okay, so why don't we leave it there for today? Because we've certainly tackled a lot already. We're approximately at the halfway point of the episode, and we will pick it up again next week. So make sure that you tune in for part 2 of A Royal Flush Uncut.
And until then... Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehookeystreetpodcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Please like the video and subscribe. And please use the link in the description for our Buy Me a Coffee. Bonjour.